Humidus Podcast.
Welcome, beautiful listener, to the Humidus Podcast with Hammer and Steph. Hello there, Steph. How are you doing?
There. I am doing quite well, actually, despite Nurgle clenching and closing his fists ever tighter around the municipality we live in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's the same for me. It's like I can still work, but I was actually a little bit worried today because I'm not really supposed to cross the borders.
oh yeah,
But I'm a health worker, so I guess it's okay, or it is okay, basically. But
yeah, same here because I think I'm allowed to travel for work as well, similarly,
yeah,
but yeah, the virus mutates, and now just as a precaution, we're getting shafted.
yeah, it's like a continuation of like our previous mention of the British mutation.
Yeah.
It's getting more and more zombie-esque out there.
Yeah, but not when you actually take a look outside, though. It's just the intangible reality of it all is quite
Yeah, it's quite distant.
eldritch.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you look out the window, it's like a postcard outside. It's
Yeah,
like
it kinda is.
frosted and beautiful.
So, what's the red line? Well, what a great time for a bunch of new good content to come out so that you can actually pass the time sitting on your butt locked inside.
That is the red line. So, what do we got for our stalwart listeners today, Steph?
Well, horror fans and Lovecraft fans have some stuff to look forward to, I suppose. With some
Absolutely.
courtesy of Bloody Disgusting, we just figured out that there is a Lovecraftian Game Boy game that's made recently and just came out. It also received a physical edition, and it's called Deadeus. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I bought it the second I saw it.
Yeah,
But
that's an avid fan for you.
yeah, I still believe it's. Lovecraft games, it's kind of like Warhammer games in a way because there's so much potential there, but it's very hard for developers to nail it down. And it's kind of also like, it's available for a bunch of different developers of all calibers. And so you see occasionally there's a gem or two, but then there's a lot of crap and mediocrity.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as a
G-
fan, you still kind of have to play it and you get some enjoyment out of it just to squeeze that tiny bit of
Yeah.
you
You
know.
got to scour all possibilities of finding that gem, that great, great game.
Yeah, and you have games like Call of Cthulhu that came out like a year or so ago. That's basically just like an adventure walking, all not quite walking sim, but kind of like a 3D point and click, so to speak. And that game was rough, but it had its moments. There was a couple of things there that I thought was quite good, and played it through it with Dan, as we always do. And Sinking City had some good moments in it, but ultimately, that's the whole debacle of them being shafted by their producers, and then it's like a lot of crap. So,
Yeah, yeah. So
a
what do you
Game Boy
think about
title.
what do you think about Game Boy? I mean, for me, the first thing I think about, this is for the original Game Boy, by the way. It's not 3DS. It's not
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
It, to me, it kind of harkens back to that feeling when you were a kid and you played those. Maybe you were even so, inexperienced with games that you felt a little bit uneasy,
yeah,
that you couldn't really command as a great of a gamer heritage as now, and you kind of felt you were fumbling a bit. You almost felt a little bit uneasy in
yeah,
some games, and you couldn't really understand all the rules of the game. I feel that actually can kind of bring forth a sort of, I don't know, airy feeling. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah. And
And yeah.
it also has that green sheen on it, like the classic Game Boy, which kind of adds to that, um, you know, sort of like eeriness of it,
Hmm. I
and
feel that
yeah,
like the old Game Boy is much more like the ring, coming out of a videotape, being a it's kind of it gives itself to creepypastas very well,
yeah,
like
true.
Lavender Town, stuff
Oh
like that,
yeah,
the kind of low MIDI sounds, chip tune esque sounds. It's just something horrific about it.
there is. It seems curseable in a way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely curseable. And the interaction with the media, it's like it's the music, it's the sprites, and it's
Yeah.
just text. It's just text coming up, and that leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
Yep.
And I feel that, like, especially when you're a kid, that can actually lend itself to be more scary than when the horrible creature or whatever is kind of painted in a beautiful 3D render.
Yeah, because there is a certain thing about horror games these days, which I feel like you don't really get scared that much anymore because it's always shows too much, and
Hmm.
the monsters, they're not that uncanny as often
No.
anymore. It's more like they're very tangible. They look like a million other horrible creatures that you've blasted to smithereens in whatever action game, right?
Yeah, yeah, right.
It's very few games that make the monsters scary anymore.
Yeah, and you got to be creative to do that
Yeah,
nowadays because everything's been to some degree explored.
yeah,
But like you said, the best horror games are always the ones that keep like the scary elements very sparse and don't show you, keeping the suspense high.
yeah.
Uh, that kind of thing.
Which is why I feel Phasmophobia, it got so much success because of that. Because that
Hmm.
one is essentially, it's asymmetrical. It's a co-op game, but it's very much less is more, and
Yeah.
it can be. It shows you very little but very effective things that can come suddenly and completely random, and there are different ways you interact with the spirit. And I mean, everybody's played Phasmophobia at this point. I've almost, but there you can talk to the ghost, and the ghost can do a lot of things. For example, it reacts to you speaking to other, um, to your teammates and whatever.
Hmm.
But you don't necessarily see this, but the ghost it dynamically reacts to the things that the player do, and they can interact with you in ways that, for example, you can suddenly hear this large or like really loud sigh in the back of your neck, and
Mm.
you can provoke it and like these kind of things, right? And eventually it'll
Yeah,
hunt
yeah.
you and it closes you in. But then it can go like quite a bit of time from when you enter the haunted location before things really starts to happen, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And you can't you can stop the ghost from hunting, but you can never beat it, as in like you can never kill it, or you don't, you know so
Yeah,
these kind of
and
things is what is needed, I feel.
yeah, that's absolutely. I agree 100%. And the just be and the feeling of being helpless, or to some degree helpless as a player,
Mm.
also heightens that sense of tension. Being able to blast some, to have like a Ghostbusters, you know, annihilator somehow to just blast the ghosts or the creatures to smithereens. That's not really the point of horror games, to me at least.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to be more like Hereditary or The Grudge rather than Evil Dead, if you want to be
Hmm.
scared, because Evil Dead is a
Yeah,
great movie in its own right, but it's it's not the same. It's not
yeah,
scary at all.
yeah, and I feel that a lot of developers have kind of leaned on jump scares.
Yeah,
Uh, and jump scares can be effective, but you need to. I mean, only jump scares is not enough. You
yeah,
need to kind of build that suspense and build the tension. And it is a very difficult genre to do right. And I feel that it's also not maybe not the most economical choices for developers.
Yeah.
for to sell in a lot of games. Is a little bit niche. Not too if you can execute it right, you'll get success. But uh, and this is certainly niche. I mean,
Yeah, it certainly is. But I'm really excited to play this game though, because it looked
hmm,
really interesting on the titles or like the screenshots, and it's I have a feeling that this game can provide that small Lovecraftian fix that I've been looking for a while.
yeah,
And then me and Dankian have also been playing through the medium, so
yeah.
we'll hopefully have that done by the next podcast, and we'll give our thoughts on it then. And the medium,
Mm.
we played through maybe like a quarter of it so far, and it's not really scary either. It's interesting, but it's not. It's also not scary. Um,
No.
so it seems like it's more like a dark, emotional adventure game rather than a horror game.
Hmm, hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm looking forward to review on that. But speaking of Lovecraftian, we also have another title from a Polish developer, Lust from Beyond, which is suspiciously Slaneeshi
Yeah,
for
it's just.
a title.
I mean,
Um,
your computer almost grows a set of breasts just from reading that title out aloud.
yeah, yeah, and looking at the article here, the screenshot is very purpley. It's very, you know. But yeah, we just briefly kind of went and looked at the game. It's been in development for some time,
Yeah.
um, and it's by a small team from Poland. But it really looks eerie. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, it looks really. The thing is, I've seen when I looked up like looking at this game itself, the Lost from Beyond, the main game, because there are
Hmm.
several um side titles in this launch. But the main game, the developer diary we saw and everything had some that looked kind of interesting. It
Hmm.
looked disturbing and weird and fucked up, but also you know intriguing. But then when we looked up the prologue, that just
Yeah.
seemed like a straight up dark porn game, and that's
Yeah.
I
It's
yeah
it's very disturbing. It's definitely not safe for work. This one. Uh, it's like it's like out of Slanesh's own demon world.
yeah.
It's like very much a sexualized, brutal demon orgy, something, something.
And then the last boss is gonna be Lord Commander Eidolon of the Emperor's Children.
Oh my God, that would be perfect. I mean, imagine facing Eidolon, like a brutal, disfigured demon with surprising strength.
And speed and like that, like super large unnatural sacks of air inside his
Yeah,
throat
yeah,
that can
yeah. So you
blast
can
you with like
scream. Oh, that's just so good. Whoever came
yeah,
up with that, with the sound thing, with
the
the
noise
Emperor's
marines.
Children, yeah, the Noise Marines, the cacophony.
Yeah.
So that's such a fitting name.
Yeah, I
Uh, but yeah, this game is definitely in that vein. It's definitely very dark and sexual, and yeah, like the title says, lust from beyond.
yeah. I think I'm going to like I'm intrigued by this game, but then if it just turns out to be like a you know more of a porn game than a proper game, if you can say it that way, I will
Yeah,
lose interest.
yeah,
They can
yeah.
have it for shock value for sure, but then if it becomes like interactive porn, if it slides
Hmm.
into that territory, then I feel like it's a wasted potential, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, and they can kind of lean it too heavy on the shock factor of it,
Yeah,
and then it'll just be a little bit, I don't know, distasteful, or it, it's not compelling just with the shock factor. I feel it needs to have a little bit of mystique to it as well.
Yeah, and it needs to be like a compelling mystery and like, not just like, oh, this is just a setup for you to explore your dark fantasies, kind of like.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people would definitely like it though.
Yeah, you might
It
call
was like
those
that.
men of alternative culture or women, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
But then that's it's not me. I appreciate some culture from time to time, but that's a bit outside of my palette.
Culture. Yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, we're gonna follow this one. We're gonna look it up once it releases, which is
This
February
month.
25th. Yeah, so
Hmm.
it's not too far down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so jumping on to something a little bit different, we yeah, the Lord of the Rings Gollum title
Hmm.
has been delayed uh, all the way to 2022.
Yeah.
It's a little bit uh, disasserting. I mean, it can be good if they, with these games when they get stuck in development hell,
Yeah.
it's never a good thing. You always say that, yeah, it's better if the game is good. Just, you know, take your time developing it. But I don't know. Like you mentioned, it's slated for release on basically all platforms, old and new.
Yeah. That's where I'm concerned a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because it, I think, no, by all means, I might be wrong. They might have a great art style that kind of like, transcends console generations, so it can still look pretty and interesting despite being also released on everything from PC to Switch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's also kind of, if this was purely next gen, wouldn't it be a great way to just like use like harness all that next gen power and just like paint a beautiful picture of Middle Earth?
Yeah, sure, sure. Sorry, I just got some leftover from that Lust from Beyond discussion. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah, that would be absolutely beautiful because the world of Middle Earth lends itself to a video game, perfectly. And I'm very curious to see. I didn't read a lot of this, on this game before we talked about it, so I don't really know what kind of story setup they're gonna do. Are they gonna do like an early Gollum, or is this
Yeah,
like the escape from Mordor, or is it,
I don't think
what do you
it's to the
think?
point that we discussed with N last time we talked about this, like to that
Yeah,
level of scale. But it does say that um, it casts you as Gollum, chasing the ever elusive One Ring. Climb, leap, and sneak your way past dangers or into advantageous spots. Gollum is skillful and sly, but also torn by a split personality. It is up to you to decide whether the darker side of Gollum takes over, or if there is a spark of reason left in what once was Smeagol.
yeah,
So,
right, right. So
yeah,
it's like yeah, you can kind of do moral choices and stuff like that.
I guess so. Yeah,
All right, right.
I mean they
I
have to do that.
wouldn't it be funny if they're like they had him actually get the One Ring?
Oh, like a
Like
what if
that would,
scenario?
yeah, no, yeah, that would be like an alternative story, uh, or maybe yeah, like in late game, that would be like a late game grindy power up. You eventually got it, and you would become permanently invisible, able to kind of choke every orc and every elf you came across.
That I can kind of see that happening though. Like just have that kind of like, let's say if you do it on the hardest difficulty or something, and you just do like a completionist run, you get that as sort of like this ultimate kind of like Easter egg mode that comes out, kind of like what Resident
Yeah.
Evil does with the infinite ammo rocket launcher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
But
that would be
it
kind of
does it.
funny.
You can leave this. Does it say anywhere that it's searching for the ring? Because that has to be a goal, right? And if that's the goal, then Bilbo must have taken it. So it's probably
Um,
like
unless it takes place, you know, because
maybe he does have the ring.
It just says that chasing the ever elusive One Ring, right? But then it might
Okay.
be.
Yeah, it does say that. Yeah. So then he has definitely lost it. Maybe it's like he lost it once before, not
Yeah,
described in the books.
because like exactly, and I think that's maybe where they take it.
hmm Yeah.
Um,
It might be, it really might be. Um, from the screenshots, he does seem very disfigured. He's really, really old.
mm,
So it's, yeah, I mean, there is like a very long timeline to exploit, like I said last,
yeah,
but it's very, it's hard to kind of make a compelling story that does not, um, especially after he lost the ring, that does not kind of meddle with the canon story.
yeah. Which is why it's better to just place it kind of like Shadow of Mordor games.
hmm
Just place
Yeah.
it in such a like more of a remote timeline that it doesn't necessarily intersect with anything established.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I think too would be like an ideal way to solve that. Um,
I'm
so
still
yeah,
intrigued
I
by
mean,
this, but yeah, cautiously
yeah,
optimistic.
yeah, me too. It's a little bit like you said with the technology for PlayStation 4 in 2022. You know,
Yeah, or
I
Switch
mean
for that
the
matter.
and Switch, yeah, like it's by that time the last generation is I wouldn't say phased out, but it's on its very, very last. It's got a large install base, so people will probably play the old console still, but it's gonna be it's gonna be a little bit of a tough sell,
Yeah,
especially like if yeah.
yeah, I mean that's why I meant it was like concerning, you know.
hmm
Um
hmm
or maybe they just have so much hope for the game that hey, let's release it on all platforms and just optimize it for all the consoles and just scale it down. Could be that.
Yeah, yeah, and it is possible, it is possible to just really do a very good job with the ports and make it like a good fluent port, just downscaled.
Yeah,
But yeah.
which is fine, but I can't help but feel like the Switch users, especially, are gonna get shafted a bit by this. You know,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
definitely not looking to be the ultimate way of experiencing the game.
There is a small gap there, between like Series or not One X and the Switch.
Yeah, Series X
Oh, the
and the
Series
Switch, you
X.
mean?
Sorry,
Yeah.
the Series X. Yeah,
Damn,
not.
blast you, Microsoft, with your hieroglyphic naming schemes.
I mean, I fell for that right now, and I remember there was an article about people buying the wrong console
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
because they thought it was a new one,
yeah.
like parents and stuff like that. I mean, I can totally see that happening. Like,
Poor parents is all I can
I,
say.
I would be like, yeah, that's a great deal. Uh,
3,000 crowns, like barely $300 for the Series X for the new
mm,
Xbox. Oh, but this is a special version called the One X, huh? Yeah, but it's in stock.
mm-hmm.
Oh, maybe I just stumble upon something. Imagine like special here. Nobody sees it
hmm
yet.
Yeah, that would be me. Uh, well. In other news, and this is not that gaming related, I recently read and watched some YouTube videos on uh, basically some people who had seen the screening of the Dune movie
Mm-hmm.
were blabbering on online. This is very unconfirmed sources.
Take it with a huge grain of
So
warp dust.
yeah, you you really need to sniff that warp dust for this one. But um, so the Dune movies, as you all know, has been postponed because of COVID,
Yeah,
the release, and we were, kind of hyped for this movie,
definitely.
and allegedly, people who have attended the screening
Mm.
have given some comments, and I'm gonna try to be not too spoilery right now, but uh,
Do the
the
non-spoiler first, and then we can do
yeah,
disclaimer for spoilers later.
yeah. So initially, what they said was that the first this movie was like watching the Fellowship of the Ring, or giving the same kind of feeling as when the person in question watched the Fellowship of the Ring for the first time.
Oh, okay.
Um, so if that doesn't hype you up, I don't know what does.
I mean, that's insane if that's the case.
Mm.
That's a high bar.
Yeah, that's a very high bar, and I feel that's maybe a little bit too optimistic. You know,
Could
you're
be.
you're just gonna be disappointed if that's your bar. You know, it's
Yeah, but imagine if you just come in there, you don't know this, and then you see it, and it is turns out to be as good as the Fellowship of the Ring,
yeah.
and
Then you
you're like,
would be,
whoa.
but I mean, yeah, yeah, I know, but I would rather be positively uh, surprised than be negatively surprised.
Oh
I
yeah, of
guess.
course. Uh,
Um,
what was there any expanding on it, or is that
yeah,
spoiler
there
territory?
were. Yeah, other than spoilers, I think that they said that it's like the characters that were cast were very well cast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not all kind of key characters are featured in this movie.
Right.
So I'm trying I'm trying to thread carefully here as to not to spoil. Um, so maybe not all the characters that you would expect in the first rendition are in the movie.
Oh, this is for
Um,
Dune fans or like people that already know about the Dune lore, right? Because for people
yeah,
that come in fresh, they don't really know.
no, and it was also said that people who are completely fresh on the Dune franchise and the universe would be able to enjoy this movie uh, fully,
Great.
basically. And that's also a very good hallmark, I feel, because it's a lot to introduce.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
setting up a whole new epic sci-fi universe. That's quite a daunting task,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and there's been so many
Uh,
failures.
oh, yeah. Oh. So let's just cross our fingers and smear our skin with the warp patience.
Yeah, that sounds
Uh,
like a great idea.
yeah. Hope not to mutate from that. And yeah, well, the initial kind of impressions from the screening attendees were very positive. Let's just put it like that. They
Yeah.
were on a high note, very much on a high note. So I don't know if I'm gonna go into spoilers here. I can apparently I can, yeah, we can do a little bit of spoilers.
Yeah, so
Um,
be warned if you
yeah,
don't want any spoilers at all, just skip like what 5 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes ahead. There we go.
yeah. So apparently the Emperor is not featured in the movie. It's just he's just talked about,
Oh, okay.
mentioned, and a little bit of gory scenography has been, or gory thematics have been toned down.
Oh, okay.
Some of the sexual content has also just been kind of alluded to
Mhm.
rather than being, described
Right.
as you would kind of expect
Yeah.
because, this is not going to be an 18 plus rated movie. So,
I mean, the same happened for Game of Thrones. If if they did it like 1-to-1 from how it's described in the books, I mean, just the scenes between Khal Drogo and Daenerys is like, whoa, this is Lust from Beyond.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, they've toned that down, but I mean, that's not a surprise to anyone. Uh, but I guess it wasn't that much more information actually.
Right.
It just said, yeah,
It's a
and
nice amount.
yeah, and apparently the shaders from the trailer was also correct. That's like how the movie is going to look.
Okay. So kind of bleak.
Yeah,
And
very bleak and grainy and sandy, kind of capturing that
mhm.
vibe. that jazz. So, but I guess that's good. I really don't like too much emphasis on shaders
Yeah.
in movies. I feel that sometimes the post development goes like under overboard with the shaders.
Yeah. But I already liked the look of the movie. I thought that
Hmm.
I don't know, like Denis Villeneuve, the guy who makes the movie, he completely owned it with the latest Blade Runner movie, and he really
Yeah,
knows
yeah.
how to make these kind of like sci-fi
Oh,
epics.
that movie was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that's not talked about as much. I feel that that deserves a lot more praise,
Yeah.
don't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I thought it was one of those movies where when I saw the trailer, I was like, wow, this looks insane. And it had
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Gosling, which at the time
Mm-hmm.
was at the top of Hollywood for a little bit, and then even Dave Bautista had a non-ironic, good, serious role.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was just everything, and it handled the old generation with Deckard pretty well with Harrison Ford, and
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, I just very little negative to say about that movie, and the way it looked and everything as well was just wow. And you could already tell the visuals in the trailer for Dune has a lot of that scale where you see those giant ships in the background in the sky, and like it gives um, that sort of epic scale to it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too. I'm actually quite psyched for this movie. I'm trying to not to be as excited as this new information kind of props you up to be, because then I'll be let down. But or maybe I won't. But
I think we've learned at our age to kind of temper our expectations despite what is being said.
yeah,
So we already kind of like, yeah, it's good that people have enjoyed it already. That's a good indicator. But it's better to just take the fact that it was very positive feedback rather than the details of what they said. You know.
yeah, I like that too. I like a little bit keeping a little bit of mystery in there. Just saying that it was good
Hmm.
kind of reassures me a little bit. And like speaking of shaders, I noticed that the 4K editions, the Ultra HD editions of Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
is actually released just this month, I think, or yeah, very soon at least. And the reviews are in, and people are like saying that this is a new definitive for Lord of the Rings.
Really.
Yeah, they say that they've really put a lot of effort into redoing a lot of the cinematography or the post kind of editing stuff
Yeah.
with yeah, removing a lot of the shades from the first editions,
Right.
and the upscaling really brings out details. Sound is supposedly much better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Man, I want to
that's a
see this
tip.
now.
Yeah, that's a tip for y'all if you wanna. Well, if you wanna. I think that in June or something, there's
Yeah.
gonna be like an ultimate release with all of the movies and a lot of cut content. So they're gonna release content that wasn't even in the definitive edition. So
5 hours times three.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if they're gonna include it in like the proper movie, but at least it's gonna be on the disc.
Right.
So yeah, look forward to that.
Yeah, because about that one, I saw like a couple of things on it before. So I saw some concern
Hmm.
that like the that the shaders that was part of what gave the new Lord of the Ring, like those Lord of the Rings movies their how to say sort of timeless
Hmm.
look.
Yeah, yeah, for
But
sure.
and then but then also Peter Jackson himself, I think. I think this was a quote from him. He said that he thought that this with the current technology, kind of like touching on what you just said, that they were now able to do things that they wanted to do initially, but didn't have the technology or possibility to. So he felt like it was, time to revisit those and make those changes to make it more close to the vision he had. Kind of like that, you know?
Yeah, and like the reviews I saw, Lord of the Rings avid fans or nerds are very, very particular about their, approach to anything Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And when, you can garner praise from that kind of audience, I think that that just speaks for itself.
Yeah, it does.
And yeah, so I was at least convinced. And I'm, uh, I've read the books like maybe 10 times. So
I think that
uh,
qualifies.
yeah, I think that I can call myself like an avid fan. And I, from the looks of it, from what I saw, it looked very good. The comparison shots and stuff like that. So
I mean, not to spill your secret or anything, but you are in fact Tom Bombadil himself.
mhm, yeah, sorry, I am the eldest Jarwine.
But yeah,
Forn. Yeah. Um, I am. I'm just living, in a small cabin in the woods, just dancing and singing along.
that's how you fix people's teeth too. You just sing to them.
I mean, yeah, I sing the decay away.
It
that's
kind of
that's
sounds
my approach.
it sounds kind of cool actually.
I mean that that kind of harkens back to the creation of art. How uh, Iluvatar kind of started the whole symphony of creation. In the
Yeah.
Silmarillion. Did you read that ever?
Uh, when I was a little bit too young to read it, so I remember very, very fragmented things.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really read it that. I read it through maybe like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's a very complicated book
Yeah.
to get your head around, at least the start of it.
Yeah.
But my point here is just that the theme of song being, powerful in the Tolkien universe um, is, what Bombadil refer. You can kind of see that in Bombadil. He can almost through just the power of song and positivity overcome evil. You
Yeah.
know, and yeah, there's something really magical to that.
Especially in the way it's described in Tolkien's works.
Mm.
You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very. I'm actually quite bummed that he wasn't included in in the films, at least to some extent. Not maybe not in like the regular movie theater release, but that they did like some shots of him. But I guess that would be too expensive.
He was the cameraman.
He was the cameraman. Yeah, yeah. He was like the one panning above, like the battle of on Pelennor.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And
He was like flying above, seeing Gandalf ride out to meet like the Nazgul.
yeah, yeah, and he's also the one that called the Eagles.
Sure, yeah,
So
of
that plot
course.
hole is filled. It was Tom Bombadil. He carried the camera. Case closed.
Yeah. He's like, in Super Mario 64, that cloud,
Yeah,
the guy in the cloud with the camera.
yeah.
He basically sits like that with a camera on a fishing pole. Oh, yeah. Good old Tom. Good old Tom.
And Game Pass. It can't be an episode without me mentioning something good about the Game Pass, and this is a complete turnaround. But when we're on the topic of good content, I just got through Yakuza Like a Dragon. Right, took me about
Yeah,
65
yeah.
hours, and there's a lot of content untouched in the game. And
Hmm,
now,
hmm.
of course, you have the remastered collection came out,
Yeah, right.
including 3, 4, and 5. 5 being known as I think the largest game in the series, um, which in itself is really daunting. But
Hmm.
the remasters have gotten quite good reviews as well. So
Yeah.
it's also on PC version of Game Pass.
Are you gonna sink your teeth into? Are you gonna play them again?
I never played 3, 4, and 5 because they were on
Oh,
PS3 and 2 respectively. Well, one was on PS4 I think as well, but they came out before it was popular in the West. So
right, right.
so they I think the remastered collection came out on PS4 and stuff last year,
Hmm.
but then now it's on next gen and PC as well, and on Game Pass. So on Game Pass now you have everything from Yakuza 0 all the way up until 5. So the only thing missing now is 6 and some of the spin-offs. So it's a great time to be a Yakuza fan.
And to be in COVID lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Control is out, and Desperados 3 is out, and, there's a lot of good things on there now.
Hmm. And speaking of N64 games,
Oh, okay, are we? Yeah. Nice
we
segue.
also have one. Yeah, very nice. We have actually for it was leaked a game that was never released properly. It
Yeah.
was a remaster of Goldeneye, basically for the Xbox Live Arcade.
Man, the live
Uh,
arcade.
Supposedly, it was slated for release in 2007 or 8, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's been known that this game, and there's was some footage leaked also previously, but now there's been like an extensive playthrough leaked from the
Right.
game, and we took a peek, and it brought back some memories for sure. I mean, this was like a very it was a genre-defining game of its time,
Yeah.
really pushing like the FPS on console, and I think I grew up with it. I wasn't allowed to own it because it was violent,
Right.
and my parents were kind of strict on that stuff. So I never owned it myself, but all my friends had it, and we used to have like sleepover gaming kind of parties
Yeah.
where we played this game all the time on split screen. Oh my god, that was so fucking fun.
Man, I have this memory of when I was in like third or fourth grade.
Hmm.
Then um, our homeroom teacher was like, she was talking to the class about like, yeah, but my grandchild got a Nintendo 64 for Christmas, and you know, he got this James Bond game, but that was like, it was a little bit too mature, so we didn't let him play that. It was very disturbing to me how, when he got defeated, you have all that blood come down the screen, and then
Yeah,
and I,
yeah,
and I remember this one guy, like the alpha dude of the class, was like, "What? James Bond Goldeneye? Oh man, come on, that game is like harmless." And then the
yeah,
teacher was like, "No, no, like that's you shouldn't say stuff like that. It's blood all over the screen." It's just like,
yeah, and the kind of polygons in that game and the movements of the soldiers.
yeah,
It's not really a simulation of real life. Let's just say that. But yeah, I mean, that was typical for the time, wasn't it? That parents were concerned about violent media, and especially in video games, because 3D was just, maturing and stuff was more realistic than ever.
yeah, and they were still of the belief that these things can lead to violent behavior and all sorts of things. That whole age-old debate that
Yeah.
recently got pretty disproven by a
Hmm.
study that's been conducted. But uh, did you ever see that there was a news article in one of the leading Norwegian newspapers when Doom 1 came out back in '94?
Hmm.
This was like clearly some kind of, I think it was like a very religious person that
Yeah.
was like, and the headline was something like, in this game, or like a game lets you become like a feral super serial killer that slices things with a chainsaw and stuff, like completely out of context, and it sounded like it was the spawn of Satan himself that shat it out, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it was so funny reading that, because like it's Doom, it's Doom One.
yeah. I know, but I mean, for the time, you can kind of understand where the attrition comes from. It's like generations meeting, and
Yeah,
it's a new technology, it's a new form of media, and they're concerned. But like you said, and it's been known for quite a while now that actually consuming violent media does not cause violent behavior,
yeah, exactly.
and there's no correlation. Uh, so, but yeah, the James Bond remake, it looked actually like the models and stuff looked really good,
Mm-hmm.
at least for like 2008. It was absolutely an upgrade, but the gameplay is still the same old James Bond gameplay, GoldenEye gameplay.
Yeah, before DualShock came along,
Yeah,
or before
yeah,
they
and
figured out how to do.
and you can kind of see that in the design of the game that they had to kind of assist the player uh, a lot,
Yeah,
and not even the DualShock point, but the fact that people were just so inexperienced with the controlling like an FPS with the Nintendo 64 controller,
yeah,
So there are a lot of the AI is really not challenging,
yep.
and assisted aiming and stuff like that. But it's
Fully
still
automatic bolt action sniper rifle.
yeah, like the first level in the dam level where you just you pick up a sniper rifle really early on, like the first seconds of the level, and it's a bolt action sniper rifle, but it is a semi-automatic gun.
As soon, yeah, and he zooms in, and he doesn't even use the scope. He just zooms in like
Yeah,
with his
no, it
eyes.
doesn't use a scope. Yeah, it zooms in with his eyes, and you can like go like
Yeah, just like
with a bullseye. But yeah, it's like speed of light reloading there. Yeah. So
maybe he's in Astartes. You never know.
yeah, you never know, and maybe that it's just decorative. The bolt on the on the gun.
Yeah, or maybe the reason why he zooms in like that is because he actually just like pretends he's using the sniper, but actually he's just throwing the bullets.
Yeah, yeah, that would be more James Bond like. He does zoom in with it with his eyes though, so
Yeah, exactly.
I mean it's believable. Yeah, so I mean it would be fun to have such a release, but it's a little bit the reason that it was never released was just legal. I think
Yeah,
the rights and stuff were so
yeah.
complicated to get. So between Nintendo and like the I don't know, Warner Brothers, or who
Metro
owns
Goldwyn
the
Mayer.
rights.
I don't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, I can't remember,
Something like that.
but yeah, it's not easy to kind of sort that legal mumbo jumbo out, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
at least we had that supposedly quite good reimagining of GoldenEye back on the Wii, which was supposed to
Yeah.
be like everybody thought it was going to be one of those, lazy cash grab kind of games, but then it turned out to be
Hmm.
one of the best shooter games on the Wii.
Yeah, I remember that. I never played that game, but I remember like reading about it and stuff.
Yeah.
It was yeah, it was well received. But wasn't there like another game on? Was it on GameCube and PlayStation 2 that also had the James Bond moniker? It wasn't GoldenEye, but it was horrible. I can remember it was one of my friends got that just of course because of GoldenEye,
Yeah.
and it was just trash. Basically, that game, it was really bad.
Well, I have fond memories of Nightfire, which
Yeah.
was especially it was that one was made for console, like an original story, and that game was pretty
Yeah.
good, I thought. But then you have a bunch of others that maybe weren't that that good. I mean, I know that GoldenEye had this other spin-off game called GoldenEye Rogue Agent,
Yeah.
which was very, very trash.
Yeah.
Had
But we also
horrible.
had Perfect Dark on N64,
Oh
which
yeah,
was like very much a spiritual continuation of GoldenEye, and that was amazing.
I never played it actually.
You never played it?
I saw it a lot, but I never played it
Oh,
myself.
that game was like GoldenEye, just better in every way, basically. So, on that note, I think we'll end this podcast. And remember to stay dank
And stay heretic.
and stay heretical. Goodbye.